Test, test. What is going on, everybody? My dad's getting some more beer, but I see some of you guys are talking. Good, good, good. Hopefully everybody's doing well today. And tonight we are going to be going over the pros and cons of a wet sump and a dry sump setup for your race car, street car, road course car.
Easy for him to say.
Mostly my dad. I just know that, you know what? Dry sump costs more.
A lot more.
So
a lot more components as well.
I'm cheap. I go with the wet.
Yeah, you know what? I want to get an oil pump too. Daggone it. All right. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll show you what I can show you, and we'll go over that. But yeah, tonight what we're going to do is go over oiling systems. I think it was B&R Racing last week suggested that.
Yep, they've been talking about actually oil pans for the last couple of weeks now.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the different kind of oil pans and the different systems. They got a wet sump and a dry sump. So we'll explain all that. You guys probably have a good idea. I mean, most of you guys have been around this for a while, but just in case you haven't, we'll share all that information with you guys. But anyways, before we get started, Philip the Third, this guy's incredible. He did send me 2 more checks, one for $16 and one for $32. He said, gonna double them every week. And he's been doing what he said. But anyways, we got those from Philip. And he is, I tell you what, he's so generous to us. I don't know why he likes it so much, but he's cleaning out his toolbox, and I think he was a machinist at one time. But look at these cool tools he's sending me. You know, I don't even know how to use this thing. It's a springy thingy. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
So, and that's a newfangled tool for me. I don't know. I'll have to learn how to use that one. But he sent me that, and this dial indicator looks like it's brand new. I don't even think it's ever been out of the package.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Starrett one?
It's for 0.001 to 1 inch.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Starrett or not, but I can't read the name on it, can you?
I don't see one on there.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. It looks like a nice dial.
Yeah, no.
And then he sent me some.
I was gonna say, I know that everything else he sent was Starrett, which is top of the line stuff.
Oh heck yeah! And these are some really cool bore gauges. What they do is now I do know how to use these. What you do is you stick this down in the hole and you adjust this out, and this has got I don't know if you can see it in the picture or not, but it's got splits on the side of it.
Yeah, it's split.
So what it does is it gets bigger. So whenever you get it snug inside the hole, then you take a micrometer and you measure that, and it'll tell you what size your hole is, which is really cool. And there's different sizes in that pack. So, and then there's some telescoping ones in here. But there's a whole box of stuff he sent me. I don't even know what all's in there yet. I haven't had time to go through it. I just wanted to open it up before the show tonight and let you guys know that Philip the Third, I tell you what, I love you, brother. I don't know why you're being so generous to me, but I love it. Thank you.
He said he doesn't know why either. Maybe it's a Pontiac thing.
Maybe, I don't know.
He said he kept all the good stuff.
Oh, okay, good. That's perfect.
But we do have Philip the Third with us. We also have Old School Twist with us, and Bill Rosenberger. Did I say it right that time?
Rosenberger.
Rosenberger. Good God.
But you were close this time, so I was going to let it ride.
I just went with it. Instead of thinking about it, I just went with it.
Yeah, you're getting closer.
Jeff from Texas.
Hey, Jeff and Joe Downey. Is that who that is? Yep. Awesome. Welcome back, guys.
Dwayne Myers, Dave Albert.
All right.
Ed Page.
Dave didn't go to the racetrack tonight, huh? Or Ed Page.
Thought that was going to get rained out. There was some pretty wicked clouds.
Yeah, it was looking pretty bad today, but it looks like it's sunny now. And it's a cool evening.
From Michigan, and Larry O, and we got Richard Untersa.
Let me see what you.
Untersech.
Your yeah. Now you got me all messed up. Untersa, I think is how he says that, or Untersa. I don't know. Maybe he can spell it out in phonics for us.
Yeah. And Mark Marshall's with us. But Richard is a new name that we haven't seen on here before.
Yeah,
so.
for sure,
Welcome.
for sure. Yeah, I think Richard's got a dragster with a Pontiac 400 in it, and I think he also has a turbocharged 301 Pontiac Firebird drag races. So.
Untersay. Untersay, Untersay is how he spelled it out for us.
Untersay, okay.
Untersay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yep, because we aren't good at phonics.
Oh, yeah, we are not. And we also have Derek Hurd with us.
Nice. Well, you know what? Welcome, guys. I'm glad we got some new people tonight. That's awesome. Hopefully we can keep growing this thing. So, like we said, we're going to go over some oil pan. I'm going to show you different styles of oil pans. A lot of you guys already seen these things, so I'm not going to show you anything new or trick or goofy that you haven't already seen. But I do have a dry sump pan that's cut apart. And I've also got a Steph's pan. And a lot of guys ask me why the Steph's pans cost so much money. I'll show you why that is. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, I want to go over some things about free horsepower in the oil pan and what to look for and miss about oil levels in oil pans. So anyhow, the first...
Well, do we to go along with the oil pans and oil pumps, do we want to touch base with the oil viscosities?
That would probably be a whole nother topic, and
Right.
yeah, that could take up an hour just talking about
Well,
that.
I agree, but I didn't know
Yeah.
if that would have to do with certain oil pumps and oil pressures.
It does, and it has something to do with the lifters too, with the hydraulic lifter. A lot of your hydraulic lifter companies won't warranty a lifter if you use heavier than a 30 weight oil in them. And honestly, I don't know why that's such a big deal. The engineer at Johnson tried to explain that to me, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me. Something to do with the piddle valve inside the lifter, and if it pumps up, it'll obviously create valve float, but there's some different things that he was telling me about in there. And they have those all engineered out so that the orifices are a certain size for different weight oils and at different operating temperatures. And there's a lot of science goes into that, and it's way more than what we're going to cover tonight. But that'll touch base and let you guys know what it is. So anyway, what we got tonight is we got, this is a factory oil pan. If I can get the plastic off of it here. All right, so I don't know, can they see on the camera
Yeah, you
there?
can pick it up a little bit. Yeah,
All right.
I can even hold it.
So if you look at that, you can see that the factory pans, they're just wide open. They don't even have a baffle or nothing inside of them. And that's what came on most Pontiac V8s clear up to about I'd say 72. And then after 1972, they actually put a baffle inside of them. And I got a Milodon pan here right now that has got a similar baffle.
So
that,
you're saying the factory put a baffle in?
yeah, like this.
Okay.
Now that's a Milodon pan there. And then see the baffle inside of here? The factory did something similar to that on from 73 up.
So the motors that don't handle the high horsepower, you're saying?
Yeah, but, well, them didn't come out till 1978 or 77.
Oh.
But yeah, they did that because the cars started handling better. They put them in Trans Ams and they corner a little better. So they put the baffle in the bottom of that pan, try to hold the oil down around the sump.
So if I went to a junkyard, I know there's not many out there left, but if I went to a junkyard and they had a Bonneville and it was a 79, do you think that it would have? I don't think they had plenty of 400s in them at that point anymore. But if they did, would that have it in there, or are you saying just the Trans Ams?
No, every Pontiac V8 clear up to 78 got
Okay.
the baffled pan. Yeah, so and they got rid of the windage tray, and we're going to talk about that tonight too.
But
So
you get rid of all pretty much all your builds.
Well, exactly. That's why we're going to discuss that. I actually did some dyno testing with a factory windage tray. First of all, the factory windage tray. Since we're going down that path, I'm just going to go and do it. So the factory windage trays. I'm sure you guys seen pictures online and maybe even taking some engines apart. I don't have one here to show you because I don't use them anymore. But because the oil acts like a rope, and it'll actually grab that windage tray, it literally will turn them into shrapnel. And so they start cracking around where they bolt on the main caps, and pieces and chunks will be missing out of them, and it'll destroy your engine. So I don't use windage trays anymore in any of our engines. And you guys seen my videos, our engines rev so damn fast that when we did use the factory windage trays in them, they would literally, you would find all the pieces in the bottom of the pan when we took them apart. And because the oil would just tear those things in pieces. So what I did was I did a dyno test to find out if the windage tray was really worth putting in the engine anyway. And the factory windage tray, believe this or not, and I'm not sure why Pontiac put it in there, maybe for better oil control in a low RPM situation, but for a high RPM situation, for a race type deal, where you're going to spin the motor 6,500, it actually loses 7 horsepower with the factory windage tray.
Well, Chevy, they don't have windage trays, do they?
Not most of them. Some the high performance engines in the Corvettes, they put that little baffle over top the oil pump in the back, but no, they don't have a windage tray.
So why did Pontiac? That's basically the only ones I've seen.
Well, I mean, windage tray, if it's designed properly, is actually a good thing. It's supposed to peel the oil off the crankshaft, get it back to the crank or the sump as quickly as possible, so that the engine doesn't starve for oil, and it eliminates that parasitic drag from the oil on the crank. Okay. So a windage tray, if designed properly and is stout enough, it can, help the engine live, make a little more power. But what we found makes more power is a deeper sump with a baffle in the pan, and that's what most of the pans that we buy. I like the Milodon road race pan for most of our builds, because you guys are driving them on the street, you're going to corner with them. That pan I just showed you, that Milodon pan, that pan's okay. It's not great. It'll work for a drag race application or something like that, but for somebody's going to corner and really abuse their engine, that pan is really not optimum. It's not going to hurt, but it's not optimum. So we got that, and then of course then you have a Steph's pan. Now these are expensive, and they're expensive for a couple of reasons. Number one, these things are made out of sheet aluminum. This is aluminum, not steel. So they have to make the pan rails. Everything's TIG welded. It's all custom bent and designed. So these pans are expensive. You get what you pay for. But more importantly, on the inside of this pan, if you look at that, they actually have like a windage or a screen windage tray that's built into the pan. So a screen tray is actually not a bad idea. The way this screen is designed is when they stamp it, the sharp edge goes down, so the oil can go through easy, but it can't come back easy. And the reason is because them sharp edges on the other side keep it from coming back through. So you can see this thing kind of wraps down around the crank down here, and it runs clear to the back of the pan. It doesn't go all the way down to the bottom here, but you got an oil pump that goes in here, so you can't really do that. Now this particular pan here is actually built for the Titan billet oil pump. And if you notice, see how deep that sump is in the back here? That's to allow for that Titan pump to fit inside this pan. Because that billet pump is
like a sump almost.
Yeah, that billet pump is really deep. And it's got instead of having a regular pickup on it, it's got a screen on the side of the pump, and all the oil runs down into that sump, and then it doesn't go dry. But that's why you pay so much more for a Steph's pan. So this is probably an $800 oil pan. That Milodon pan's about a $500 pan, between $450 and $500. So big difference in pan design though. And then we have
Now with the steps pan, because I personally worked with that pan, it is a very nice pan, but their downside to that pan, the only negative thing I have to say about that is there's plugs underneath that you have to take off and you get oil all over your face.
So what he's talking about right here, because look at this, you can't get to the pan rail. And the reason they did that is this is actually a kick out. So when the crank's going around, the oil goes up in there, gets caught underneath there and runs back to the pan. So when you hear of a kick out, this is actually a kick out pan. You can see it's wider on the end of it down there. And so to get to the oil pan bolts here, you can't just stick these side on and seal it up. You have to put the oil pan bolts in through these plugs that are in the pan, which is a major pain in the ass, and especially when you're in a hurry at the racetrack.
Yep, and if you drop a bolt,
you're screwed. You got to take pan clear bag off again.
Yeah,
they really should put a tube in there, and then you wouldn't even need a plug down here, and then you could just run a socket up in there.
Yep.
But they don't, so makes it fun. All right, so this next pan I'm going to show you guys, I've actually cut it apart. And the reason I cut it apart was because I was getting ready to modify this for my engine, and because I'm going to run a dry sump on it. But as you can see with this pan is actually fairly flat. It don't have a rear sump on it. It's just a flat pan all the way across. And what's going to happen with this, I think you can see it here, this is where the oil gets sucked out of the pan, okay? Because you don't have an oil pump in the pan anymore. You got the oil pump on the side of the engine. And so this is where the oil is evacuated out of the engine, which you can see inside here. What they do with that, they built baffles around that so that the crank doesn't pull oil away from the pickups.
So right here, the square tubing.
Yep, that goes around all the pickups, or the suction side there, or the evac side. And then this has a screen windage tray in it as well. And again, it's designed like the steps pan. This side here, if you run your hand over it, it's kind of sharp and it's got sharp edges. This side's smooth. So the oil can go in, but it can't come back out. So this is actually a pretty good setup. But this pan is great for ground clearance because it's flat. And a lot of guys use them in dragsters and chassis that sit real low. And then this one too is like the steps pan. If you look at that part of the pan, there's plugs right there by the pickups, and that's how you gotta get to the oil pan bolts.
Which now that you cut it, you could easily put tubes on yours if you wanted to.
That's what I'm gonna do.
If it's going clear.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this thing so that when we're working on the track, it's way easier to work on. Because they just, these guys are doing something fairly inexpensive and trying to make it fit the masses at a cheap price. And even though these aren't cheap, but that's what they're doing. So, but
yeah, these are all hand welded.
Yep.
They are fabbed like your valve covers.
Now this is a Moroso pan, and it's aluminum too. And of course, dry sump pans are expensive because they're custom built. It's not something you're going to buy production-wise. So now you have a wet sump and you have a dry sump. And
well, before you get too far into that, do you want to answer some questions?
Absolutely, let's do that.
Okay. Philip III said that he also seen crank scrapers.
Yep.
And he said that helps. And Richard asked, what about the Moroso two-piece oil pans? Ed Page says that Moroso makes a great two-piece pan.
Yep.
But I don't know if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, so does Jeff Johnston. Johnston Oil Pans. No relation, but has the same last name as we do. And he's got a nice two-piece pan. And that's nice for at the racetrack because if you're running a nitrous or a blown application and you need to change rod bearings in between rounds, you don't have to take all the oil pan bolts out. You just take that bottom section of the pan off, rotate the crank over, unbolt the rods, put new bearings in, and go to the next. So that's a good way to go too.
Philip III said there is a company making a pan with a flange that bolts to the engine, and then the pan bolts to the flange. Is that a two-piece then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that would be Moroso or Jeff Johnston.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
BNR Racing asked, is there any truth, Don, that the Pontiac V8 oil pan sump is too wide compared to the small block Chevy and big block Chevy?
No, and I honestly I've never heard that before. So, but I don't think it's an issue. What we do is, and I shared some pictures, I think, on the page for tonight's show. Let's see if we can pull that up here real quick, and I can
Pictures
show
or
'em.
videos?
Pictures on my Facebook page.
Oh, I am not logged into your Facebook page anymore.
All right.
But, I'll see if I
But
can
if
get
you
them.
look at them pictures, what we do is we put clay on our oil pump pickups, and we make sure that the oil pump pickup is close enough to the bottom of the oil pan. Now you don't want it too close to the oil pan because it'll actually create a vacuum around the pickup, and it won't pick up oil. So you have to make sure you have. We like to run usually about roughly 3/8 to a 1/2 inch of clearance between the pickup and the oil pan. And so what we do, it's got to be higher. Well, nope, it's higher up. It's one of the, should be in that post.
Oh, in the post?
Well, maybe.
That's only one comment.
Well, you know, can you click on that and then go to the, click on that. And then I think I put it in those pictures if it'll let you view the pictures. I'm losing my voice, guys, sorry. But anyways, there's pictures of how we do it. And another thing we do too, because oil pan level or oil level in the pan is very critical. So what we do when we put the lower dipstick tube in the block, we make sure and measure every one of them, and it's got to be a certain height so that the oil level is a proper level in the oil pan for streetcar or racing or whatever we're going to use it for. And in the drag racing applications are a little different than a streetcar application, and so you know I could give you guys that spec, but the problem is you got to make sure you use the right spec for the right application, or you'll end up having problems. Yeah, I don't see it.
I can send it to. I can go to your computer and send it to me.
I don't know why it's not coming up on
I don't
there.
know why either.
You know, that's the thing about this social media crap. On your phone, it's different than on his screen, which is different on my screen. I don't get it. I don't know how that stuff works, and I don't want to try to figure it out. I got enough in my brain. So anyhow, what was I talking about? The
Oh, here we go. Ed Page sent us a drawing of a two-piece
cool.
Moroso
Yep.
pan.
Yep.
Let me.
And that
show
looks like
that
a
real
Wet Sump
quick.
pan too. I can't tell until you roll it up there a little bit.
I gotta do. Trying to find my main camera. Here we go. There we go. So.
Roll down a little bit and let me see. Is that a Wet Sump or dry? Yeah, it looks like a Wet Sump.
Yep.
That might be what Ed Page uses on his. I don't know. But yeah, that's a perfect example. You can see where the bottom part of the pan bolts on the upper half, and it makes it a lot easier to service the engine at a racetrack.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yep.
So it almost looks like they use the same holes, but they put a stud through there instead of a bolt, and then you have two sets of nuts.
No, I don't think so. That's probably studded, but it bolts on the pan up here.
Oh, I see now. Yeah, it's sandwiched right there. So the bolt's right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I see now.
So yeah, that's a good example of a two-piece pan.
And it holds 7 quarts plus the filter.
Yep. So you can get any capacity you want. They'll build you whatever you want if you buy a custom pan. And, you know, so it depends on the application again, well, how much oil you want in it. So when we were in the Engine Master Challenge, one of the things that the top contenders were doing, and then eventually all the competitors started catching on to what was going on, they were running oil pans. We called them suitcases because on an engine dyno, you have all kinds of clearance. You don't have to worry about a frame underneath. So these oil pans that they were putting on these engines, because you're only allowed to run a certain amount of oil in those competitions. I think we were allowed up to 7 quarts. And we had to have a minimum of 5 quarts in the engine. So anyhow, the oil pan was like this deep on the bottom of that. And so I'm pretty sure you guys can figure that out why they did that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to move the oil level as far away from the crankshaft as possible. And I do have an automated video on here of that I pulled off the internet that I sent to you.
Which one?
Right there, that Converge.
This one? Okay.
Yep. So let's see if we can share that. Because this gives you a good idea whenever the engine is running, what the crankshaft looks like. Now that blue is the oil, and see how the crankshaft is scooping up that oil in there?
Which is meant to do.
Well,
Right.
No, you don't want that, actually. So, but that's the way, because of confinement between, for stock chassis or whatever, you only have so much room underneath the crankshaft for an oil pan. And if the pan's close like that, that's exactly what you have going on. And that's what they call windage. So that crankshaft is actually picking up oil, and it clings to the crankshaft, which hurts horsepower. Not only does it cling to the crankshaft and hurt horsepower, but it aerates the oil as well. And whenever you have a high RPM engine on the dyno and you see the oil pressure fluctuating at 7,000, 8,000 RPM, it's because the oil's being aerated. You need to drain a quart of oil out of the engine. And by doing that, what you're going to do is you're going to free up horsepower because the crank's not running through the oil anymore. And what that's going to do is it's going to add anywhere from 7 to 22 horsepower by just removing oil out of the engine. So in the Engine Master Challenge, that's what we did. We had the pans super deep, so it got the oil away from the crankshaft, and we ran 5 quarts of oil in it, which means you don't have all that oil in the pan and robbing horsepower, causing friction on the crank. So that was your free horsepower tip. But you have to have, there's a fine line between not enough and too much. And not enough or too much will cause bearing problems. So that was the other topic I want to go over tonight. If you have too much oil in the pan and it aerates the oil, and it'll actually make it look milky. It'll look like chocolate milk instead of oil. That's air that's in the oil, and the bearings don't like that. So that causes all kinds of weird problems with the bearings. Like you'll pull an engine apart, and if you have air in the oil, the bearing will actually start to flake. It'll look like chunks are missing out of it, and that's because there's air in the oil. And we had a problem a few years back. It was in the late 90s, I think it was, with a bearing manufacturer, and they weren't, the adhesion between the layers was not good, and we were delaminating bearings, and that was a totally different issue. But if you have like little spots, little irregular shaped spots on your bearing surface that look like pockets, that's because there's air in the oil, and that's not good. And because it's like many explosions on that bearing shell, and it'll just chip away at that bearing material.
We'll do it to the crank too.
No, crank usually don't see it
Oh, okay.
because it's hard.
I just
Bearings
seen
are
pits
soft.
on the crank before. That's probably just from rust then.
Yeah, probably.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you'll aerate the oil if you don't have enough, or if you have too much. So the factory, whenever they recommend 5 quarts plus 1 for the filter, that's a safe number for most engines that run between idle and say 4,500 RPM. If you don't abuse your engine all the time, over revving it and being crazy like we are, you're going to be fine running 6 quarts of oil in a factory pan. But if you're going to drag race, you want to watch your data logger and make sure you're not getting a oil fluctuation at high RPM. If you are, then you probably have too much oil in the pan, or not enough. You need to determine that. So don't.
How would you determine that?
It's not as easy as it sounds. You have to know how much oil's in the pan. How we do it is we take the pan, sit it on the table, and we get a quart jar and we fill it up until we see where the oil level's at, and that's how we determine it. But if it's in the car already,
Right.
The only thing you can do is you can add a quart, see if the fluctuation goes away. If it don't, then take 2 quarts out and see if it goes away.
Now, when you have it on the table and you're filling it up, what level are you looking for? Are you looking for 3 inches from the top, an inch from the top?
No, it shouldn't even come nowhere near that. 5 quarts of oil, that baffled pan, it usually comes up to about where that baffle's at. Maybe a little bit past it.
Okay.
Yep. But you got to remember too, when the engine's running, you probably have roughly 3 quarts to 3.5 quarts in the engine. Through all the oil galleys, running through the rod bearings, main bearings, lifters. There oil in the cylinder heads. So not all the oil is going to be in the pan.
Let's see here. So B&R Racing said as a Canton 15-450 second gen Firebird Trans Am oil pan, decent, street strip and for high speed turns. Bought one recently. Thought about adding a screen windage tray to the pan.
Well, I definitely add if you're going to put a windage tray in it, put a screen one in it, and make sure it's supported enough so that it doesn't, because it'll pull that into the crank too. But the Canton pans, I'm not a fan. I mean, we'll use it if we can't get a Meladon. I like Meladon pans or Steph pans. But my favorite pan's a Meladon's road race pan. That's my go-to. That's what I use on probably 95% of our builds, even our drag race builds. And the reason is, and Canton makes a pan like that too. Now, the reason I don't like a Canton pan, they got a goofy setup for the dipstick. It goes in the side of the oil pan instead of coming through the block. And so it's a pain in the ass to set up, and then the dipstick leaks, and it's hard to get around the headers, and I just don't, it's just me, personal preference. I don't like that oil pan because it's a pain in my ass, and I don't like that. I want it easy. So,
what pan have you noticed gives you the best seal?
None of them. You have to make every one of them fit and seal right.
Okay,
There's none that fit
So when
right.
they're stamping these out or even making them by hand, they still
They're
leak
not,
somewhere?
Yep, they're going to leak.
Is it usually by the rear main seal?
Yeah, typically, or in the
cover?
front. Yep, up in the front. But
Okay.
yeah, so, but mostly in the back. Some guys will find an oil leak at the back of the engine, think it's a rear main seal, and it's the oil pan's leaking. And if you set the pan on without a gasket, you'll see what I mean. It's tight on the sides and big gap in the center. So you have to use RTV to fill that void. There's really not any way that we can fix that other than with sealer.
Yep. Let's see here. We have Philip III. When doing dyno pulls, you see where a good pan will help. Windage tray can be everything.
Yeah, I shared a couple of videos to my son, and maybe he can put them on here for you guys. One of them is Richard Holdner. He did a oil pan test, and I think it was on a small block Ford, which is a real good engine to try it on because it's got a fairly short stroke. And he shows the horsepower difference between the different pans that he ran. And then the other one is that Motor Trend magazine Hot Rod TV or Popular Hot Rodding TV. I don't know what it's called, but I don't get a chance to watch this stuff very often, so I don't know the names of all these shows. Engine Masters, that's what it is.
Engine Masters.
So, and they actually pulled oil out of the pan. I think they took a total of 3 quarts out, and they picked up 22 horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's free horsepower there.
B&R Racing said the problem I had with the Meladon 7-quart street strip pan is oil pressure going to 0, hitting the brakes hard from 100 to 140 in his 70 Trans Am Ram Air 4.
Well, you might have that problem. So what you need to do is get the road race pan. And I think the part number is 366. The last 3 numbers are 366. It's either 366 or 360. I don't remember now.
And that one has the
Swinging trap doors.
yeah, trap doors in it.
Yep, and that's what you want for that kind of application. It's got a real small area around the sump, and it's got a trap door here and a trap door here. So, and they'll open to let oil in, but then when they close, the oil can't get out of that cavity. And that's why I like that pan. It works great for what you're doing with your Trans Am from 140 to 100.
B&R Racing said guys complained on performance years Pontiac forum about Moroso pans, Pontiac V8, but yeah, it's like take it with a grain of salt rather than get the scoop from DCI Pontiac.
Well, the big problem is and even my guys here are guilty of this. They want to pull it out of the box and just bolt it on. I've not been able to do that in 43 years of business. Everything aftermarket has to be made
Well,
to work.
they do it on TV.
Yeah, they do.
I mean,
But I've never been able to do it. I've been doing engines for 43 years.
you haven't been good enough to be on TV, apparently. Philip III said the aeration is what causes pressure drops. And it seems like you can't stop aeration over 7,000 RPM.
No, it's you can. You have to have a dry sump. So, and that's why dry sumps, are an awesome way to go for drag racing or road racing. It'll with the oil tank, where the oil goes back to the oil tank, this reservoir. Instead of it being in the pan, there's no oil in the pan. It's all in the big tank on the side of the frame or on the engine in the front. And inside that oil tank, there's baffles or discs in there. And what it does is starts out with the big holes and the little holes, and it keeps getting smaller. And what it does, it knocks the air bubbles out of the oil. So by the time it gets to the bottom of the tank and is ready to be sucked back into the engine, there's no air in it then.
No.
And the capacity is larger too. Instead of having 5 or 6 quarts of oil, those tanks, some of them will hold 2-3 gallons.
BNR Racing said, how do you like the external oil accumulators, Don? Moroso and Canton makes them.
Yeah, those are a real good idea, especially for like what you were talking about with that stopping real hard or road courses or even drag racing, because if you got a car that pulls the front end up real high, all the oil's going to run away from the sump on the pickup on the pump. And for a moment there, you're going to be without oil getting to the oil pump. And if you have one of those AccuSumps, AccuSump used to make them, but Moroso, I think, bought them out. And then Canton's got one, like he said, too. And that'll supply oil while the pump doesn't have any oil.
Old School Twist asks, what pan would you recommend / use for yourself with your block on twin turbo motor he's piecing together?
Again, it depends on the application. So, but my go-to is that Milodon road race pan. It just works so good because it controls the oil so well. It's got a baffle in it. It's got trap doors in it. And it's low profile, so it clears the road on most chassis that set low. I mean, you can't beat it. And I do believe it's a 7-quart pan. So that's the pan I like. I'm gonna try to find a part number.
Yeah.
Don't put in Milodon, put in oil pan. Some at site, if you don't do it this way, you won't find it. Just put in oil pan. Then go down and find Pontiac V8. And then punch that.
Engine. You're talking about the motor, right?
Yeah. Yep. So you'll hit Pontiac, and then it'll say family size V8.
Pontiac V8.
And then down to that 400, 455 doesn't matter. And then click that, and then it'll bring up pans. All right. So Milodon. That's that 355 pan I just showed them. We don't want that one. I hope they didn't discontinue that, because I haven't been able to get it for a while. And Canton does make a pan, a road race pan. Go back up, because I think, what's that?
The Wet Sump one.
Yeah, road race Wet Sump pan. But see, the other thing I don't like, and they can't see that picture.
Not yet.
I don't like that stupid kick out. See where the dipstick tube goes in? It's just a pain in the ass. It's not a very good design. They really need to redesign that pan.
But this one doesn't have trap doors, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, it does. And it's got the baffle, and you take that baffle out, it's a bolt-in baffle, and there's trap doors.
That's what those
There's
bolts are
trap
for.
doors in here, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Because that's what, let me see. Someone just said, BNR Racing, I looked at the Milodon road race pan, and they don't list trap doors on any main website.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can find the part number for you, I can give you the part number, and I know it has trap doors in it. what is that? Is that the 350? No, there it is. I think that's it. Pro Touring pan,
Pro
they call it
Touring
now.
pan?
Yeah. They don't show an internal view of that, do they?
No, they don't.
But that thing's got trap doors in it.
This applies during rapid acceleration, hard deceleration, violent turns, common to motorsports.
Yep. Great pan, and it fits well. It takes minimal work to get it to fit the engine and not leak. And the pickup, I like the pickup too. The pickup's got big screen holes in it, and so it doesn't restrict oil flow.
I wonder if Milodon. I wonder if they have it on their website. Better pictures of it. Pontiac pans.
There you go, Pontiac oil pan. Is that it right there?
This one is a low profile
Nope,
Pro
that's
Touring.
what I showed them. Yeah. Yeah, they do show the road race on there. What's the part number on that one? 665. Okay. So yeah, they don't show an internal view of that.
So they have a 660.
Which is the one we just seen on the website for Summit.
I thought it was 665.
No, 665 is the one
Oh
I
yeah,
like.
660. Okay,
Yep.
yep. 665 and 660. So 665 is the GTO. 660 is the Firebird.
And either one will fit either chassis, except for 64 to 7 GTO. So what happens with those? The front of the pan hits the drag link or the center link on the steering.
You get one more quart with the GTO, so if they fit either,
it'll fit either. Yeah.
my money would go towards the GTO one.
Yep.
You get one more quart of oil if you
Right.
need it.
It's same depth. Both of them are 7 3/4 inches deep. But the 665 has a little tiny kick out on the one side.
Yep, right there.
Yep. Which is a little bit more oil. But yeah, those pans, I like the 665 and the 660. Both those pans are good pans. And whenever you set those things up, make sure you put the thing on the table, level it up, and put your 6 quarts in it, and you'll see where the oil level is in the pan. And then make sure you measure that, and then you get your dipstick measurement right, so that whenever you check your oil, your dipstick's in the oil at the right position or level.
All right.
There's so many little things that we do when we build an engine that we just don't talk about, that people don't even know we do, and it's things like that. And it takes a little bit more time to do, and of course I charge for that, but you know what? We want a better product or a better result
Well, it
when
helps
we're
the
done.
longevity of the motor.
Right, exactly. We're trying to keep these things alive. I
Um,
know my customers. I'm gonna go out and beat on these things.
Yep. John Dorbush finally arrived.
Finally. Holy shit, John, where you
Yeah.
been? I don't even know if you've been with us for a month.
Yeah.
I haven't heard your name in a while.
And B&R Racing said, I seen a post on Performance Years Pontiacs where a guy installed a hydraulic oil gauge on his oil pan. Said oil drops 2 inches on startup and running away at idle.
Yeah, so you know what you can do is you can put a sight gauge on the side of the pan. Once you fill your pan up with the oil and you know where your oil level's at, you can actually put a clear sight gauge. And what that is just an elbow here and an elbow here with a clear tube in between it, and it goes on the side of the pan. So you can just look underneath your car and you'll be able to see where your oil level's at. You don't even need a dipstick.
Yep, just some JB weld and you're in there.
Yeah, we would probably do it here at DCI with a welder, but but you can do the home brew.
Yeah. B&R Racing wants to know, does the Mildon road race pan clear Hooker Super Comp 4202 second gen round port headers?
Yeah, boy, you're asking a lot of questions. I don't know about that. Honestly, I can't tell you. We don't put a lot of the engines in that we do, so I don't know, what header problems come up. But so far, we haven't anybody complain. I'm going to assume that they'll clear.
Yeah, because I mean, the round port header tubes are a little bit bigger, but I think they're out of the way enough because the D port ones are.
Well, the Canton pan definitely is a pain in the ass.
Yes,
You
that
can't-
one is, yes.
You can't get the starter off without taking the header loose,
Yeah.
because that kick out on the pan sticks out there, on both sides. And then one Milodon pan's like that too, and it might be that 665 is there's a kick out over there on that side, and you can't just pull the starter straight down, and that's a bit of a pain in the ass. But is it 355? Okay, it's this one here. So if you look at this, that's the starter side. All right, see how it kicks out? And that traps a starter in there with the header on it, and you can't get it out. Huh? Mini starters are better, but it's still, I don't know if you can get it out of there or not, because the header tubes go right down in front of it.
Yep.
You can't get it out. Yeah, even I don't think you can. I think you have to drop the header out of the way, which sucks. So if you have a starter issue, you know, you're gonna be cussing at the thing. So I like to keep the flat sides if we can.
I don't know why they put them on the opposite side.
I don't know.
Well, with arms
Well, the
like
oil
yours,
filter's on the other side.
With arms like yours, why don't we just get with like the old Model T Ford crank in the front?
Yeah. get that crank where you crank it up and then you push the button.
Yeah, there you go.
They had lawnmowers like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with 14-to-1 compression, that'd be awesome.
Yep. Philip the Third says, "Oops, gotta go get another beer."
Oh, boy.
And Richard said, "Me too."
Yeah, you get good. You guys are starting to drink some beer.
So we already read that one. Philip Third's back.
Okay.
B&R Racing. I would like to dry sump, but I know it's $5,000 cash for a small block Chevy and big block Chevy. Pontiac V8 add 2 more K.
Yeah, 2,000 to 3,000 more. Yeah, dry sumps are very, very expensive. But you know what? Once you go dry sump, it's like going roller cam. Once you go roller cam, you'll never go back flat tap it again. And if they're telling me, and I haven't done this yet, Ed Page can probably confirm this, once you go blown, you'll never go NA again. So, I don't know. I'm afraid to go blown because it's too damn expensive.
It's so nice, though. You hear the turbos? Oh.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And when maintenance out the ass, working on the car all week, so you can go racing on the weekend in your car for 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds. Ed Page is going to be in there 6 seconds this year.
NHRA Bandit, how do you like the one-piece pan gasket?
Haven't used it, and
say, I
I've
already
had
know the answer to this.
several customers that have, and they don't like it. So now I don't know if it's because they don't know how to install it. I'm not saying it's a bad product. I'm just saying they don't like it.
Ed Page says dry sump also takes up a lot of room.
Yes, it does.
And Ed Page also shared with me. So Titan pump belt drive fits. I'm assuming Rob MC or ROBBMC starter.
Yep, Rob Mick or Mick Rob. I don't remember how it's Rob Mick. I think it is starters. And he's got a kick-ass starter. You know what? Just real quick. Go ahead, son.
Oh, and I was just gonna say, and Power Master starters with dipstick. So I'm assuming he's talking about the Moroso 2-piece pan.
So Rob Mick starter, if you got a high compression engine, you want to buy his starter, but you want to get the starter drive support, because like your Tiltons or however they say that, and McLeods and all those mini starters, they don't have a support, and the gear comes out and there's nothing supporting that. And if that thing kicks against the starter for any reason, it snaps that starter drive right off. And it always happens when you're in the semifinals at the racetrack, getting ready to whoop on your buddy's ass. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I know. Been there, done that.
B&R Racing says, I make decent money, but that inflation is real.
Yeah, no lie, no lie.
Larry says, so the Milton race pan is the same internally as the Canton Road race pan. I have the Canton, but all this dry sump talk got me thinking.
Yeah, well, the dry sump's a good way to go. And I tell you what, the daily pans that we put on these 2 Ram Air 5 engines we're building right now, I don't have one off to show you guys, but the oil pump is an integral part of the oil pan. It's a billet oil pan. and the oil pump is built right onto the pan itself. So it eliminates a lot of bracketry and everything on the front and all that noise up front of the engine. So basically, and it gets rid of a lot of the oil lines too. You're only going to have one line going to the tank and one coming from the tank, and then the tank mounted somewhere. And you can get smaller tanks. You don't have to have a 3-gallon tank. They make a 1.5 gallons, you know, or whatever. Most guys will run somewhere around 2.5 gallons, and you're not going to have it full clear to the top, but it's got 2.5 gallon capacity. And if you run it 2/3 full, then you have, you know, the proper amount of oil for the engine. And the more oil you have in that tank, the cooler the oil is going to run too, which is good for the engine. You don't want your engine oil, you want it right around 200 to 230 degrees. Anything over 230 is not good. So, but you can run it higher. You just have to make sure you have the right type of oil.
Ed Page said that the pan he had made supports those options.
Okay.
So he has a dipstick, and it can fit the Titan pump, belt drive, fits the Rob MC starter or Power Master starters.
Got it.
And he is in love with the Titan oil pump, which I would have to agree. I think that's a nice pump.
Yeah, he's got an external one, I think. I think his is belt driven. But we have the internal one. It's a billet pump too, and it's driven.
That's what he sent to me, is the Wet Sump oil one. So.
Yeah, and that Titan pump is beautiful. But it when I bought the one I have, it was right around $1,000.
Yeah.
It's probably $1,500 now. So it's a
Let's
little
just find
rich
out.
for a
He
lot
sent
of
me the
people.
link.
Oh, he sent you a link?
Yep.
All right, let's see how much they sell for now.
$782.
Yeah,
And that's for a billet one.
But is
Well, I think all Titans are billet, but
that? Yeah, they are. That's a Pontiac pump.
Pontiac billet Gurator,
Gearator. Yep.
Wet Sump oil pump.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. The Titan oil pumps are gearator. They're not a spur gear. And the difference between a spur gear is them ones that are straight cut up and down. They kind of look like a star when you turn them like that. A gearator is a round disc that's got like clover leaf cut in it with another clover leaf that goes inside of it. And there's debate on which ones are better for not aerating the oil or volume. I don't honestly have an opinion on that because I don't have enough experience to tell you.
Okay, so Ed Page is running an internal oil pump,
Oh, okay.
but his fuel pump is belt driven. But this one, you can select your PSI you want to run at. Goes all the way up to 200 PSI.
Yeah.
80 PSI, $782.
They went down because they were right around 900 and something.
Now, and this is from Titan Speed Engineering, so that's their
Cool.
website.
Yeah, hey, there's an inflation part that didn't go up. It went down.
It went down.
That's awesome. It's been a few years since I bought my pump. I bought them when they first came out, which was, man, probably 15, 20 years ago.
At least.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a
Probably
while.
20 years ago now, because I was still in school.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Let's get two more questions here, and then we'll finish up. So, trying to find where we left off at. Okay, Philip Third says, wait till you see a NASCAR pan. The 15450 is straight down both sides. Sump is 10.5 by 9 by 2 2/4, or 2 2.25 inches. I calculated, actually holds 6.6 quarts from baffle to floor. It's 2.25 inches.
Okay.
And BNR
That's a
Racing's-
Canton pan?
Yes.
Okay.
And Philip the Third says yes, NASCAR, or BNR Racing said yes, NASCAR has the best. Philip Third said only if you're turning left.
Yep.
BNR Racing said this is just crazy. Millidan doesn't list trap doors equipped Pontiac V. Had to find out from Don at DCI.
Well, Moroso, I don't know if they do or not. They've got the windage tray billet pans, but I don't know about a trap
Millidan.
door.
If I said Marissa, that's my fault.
Yeah, okay.
Millidan.
Yep.
I have a kick out on my Canton pan, and you are correct on loosening the header to remove starter. Mini starter don't come out either.
Yeah, it's a
So,
pain.
Yeah, those Canton pans. They look nice, don't get me wrong,
Yep.
but
Well, they make them too low profile. They
Yeah.
don't want them to hang down, which I get. You don't want your pan to hit the ground and tear a hole in it, but you need to make it a little bit deeper.
yeah.
Because the Milodon pan's about the same depth as a factory pan. It's like literally within 3/8 of an inch.
Yep. Philip the Third says you just have to make the headers go through the hood.
Perfect. I like it.
Marshall says with no kick out, header clearance is fine. I run Doug's 2-inch primary tubes, but I assisted a friend installing 2-inch super comps on his 79 Trans Am.
And Mark's going to be finding out here pretty soon. He's got a round port engine. He's going to be putting his Trans Am, so, and he's got a Milodon pan on it.
BNR Racing said that's the old Milodon 7-quart pan on my 70 Trans Am Don. Mini starter comes off ram air 4 iron heads and Hooker Super Comp 4202 round ports, 2-inch primaries, 3.5 collector.
Yep. I've had a couple sets of those headers. I've never installed any on a Firebird though.
And John Dornbush says he just got back from the eye doctor, having my eyeballs dilated. You guys look better when you're blurred.
Thank you.
And he said that explains,
Well, I know he might.
that explains why so many of these people are watching and drinking.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Dave Laubert says he's used one-piece gasket and sealed up all right.
Okay.
BNR Racing said the Milodon 7-quart pan I used at first, a full-size GM starter T10 MT with Hooker Super Comp 4202s. Never took the driver's header free. Just stinks, no trapdoors hitting, brakes hard. Did it at drag strip to nailing, brakes hard, excited. Oil pressure goes to 0.
That's not good.
What do you think about Lund oil pumps?
I don't know. Never ran any of his stuff, or oil pump, I should say. I've had some of his other products, but no oil pump.
He read that they're using BBC 8 rotors, gears inside.
Yeah, I don't know. He might.
John Dorbush says gear rotor pump uses less horsepower to drive.
Yep, they do claim that. And actually, I was working with another company that John Dornbush recommended to me to get a billet oil pump made, and I didn't realize Titans came down so much, so I thought we were going to be a little bit priced a little better, but after seeing that, just no sense in doing it because we were going to be around $750 mark anyway. So, but anyways, it didn't end up happening. I mean, I worked back and forth with the guy for about 6 months, and then I think something happened to his company. I think COVID, he was a small company. I think he went out of business.
BNR Racing said he used a Schumann 80 PSI last for his 63 Grand Prix 455,
Okay.
520 horse. Thinking about buying same pump again. Looked at Titans. It's nice, but it's like free cash to spend one paycheck.
Yeah. What we do is we use the Milling Select pumps because they have billet gears in them instead of cast gears. And then we blueprint all our pumps here, so.
But they have the cast housing though, don't they?
Yeah, yep. And all the oil pumps do except for Titan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Ed Page says his Moroso oil pan has an access port to allow adjusting the oil pressure without draining the oil. That's
Cool.
sweet.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Philip III said, once again, the stuff I sent you is stuff I don't use anymore, and I'm moving, so I got to lighten my load.
Well, I do appreciate it, Phil. I'll put it to good use. So,
Michael Mithen just joined us.
where's Mike been all night?
And
He plays hockey. He might have had a hockey game.
actually, cable-driven fuel pump is in the trunk.
Ah, interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So anyways, what would be, I guess to wrap this all up, what would be the pros of going with a wet sump or a dry sump if I wanted just a street strip car?
Well, dry sump for a street strip cars, I mean, that's an exotic oiling system and very expensive. So you're probably not going to run that on a street strip car, and really you don't need to. I mean, a wet sump's fine. The dry sump, the reason that you run a dry sump is there's a couple reasons. One, you gain ground clearance. Two, you gain some horsepower because you're getting rid of all the oil inside the engine. And some engines it's considerable. NASCAR claims that it's like 38 horsepower for their dry sump. I don't know what it is for a pro stock engine. You think about it, that engine's going 11,000 RPM. So it's probably 40, 50 horsepower for one of those. I don't know. The other part about the dry sump is you can control your oil temperature a little bit better because you have a separate oil tank instead of it being in the engine. But you need the oil to cool the engine too. A lot of people don't realize not only does the oil provide lubrication, but it provides cooling for the engine too. So you don't want to run, that's why you don't want your oil temperature real high. But for a street strip application, wet sump is plenty good enough. Most of those, you're only going to spin the motor between idle and 6,000 RPM, so it's not.
Again, I don't know what age Ed Page is running his motor to, but he has a wet sump. He has that Titan, so.
Yeah, and he's running a wet sump, and I think he's been as high as 8,500 with that. So
I mean, and he's
you
twin
can run 'em.
turbocharged.
Yeah. Well, I think John Langer, he's got a wet sump on his car, and I know he's buzzing his motor at $9,000.
Okay.
So
I mean, now is there classes in NHRA that require you to run a dry sump for like oiling down the track or anything purposes?
top fuel maybe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
nothing like.
Yeah, but not your regular bracket racing or
Gotcha.
anything. And some classes require you don't run a dry sump because of the advantage of horsepower.
Ah,
So
okay.
yeah, if anything, you're going to be limited, so you can't use a dry sump.
So wet sump, I mean, honestly, can I mean, Ed Page is making what, 30,000 something horsepower?
I don't think he's at 3,000 yet, but he's
Well, at the motor.
yeah at the crank. I think he might be making 25 to 2,800.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, it really doesn't have anything to do with horsepower. It just has to do with the windage. And if you're going to spin the motor hard, it's a good idea to have a dry sump. It keeps the oil out of, or air out of the oil, which is a big benefit. So the bearings will live, and you control the heat with the oil a little bit better. And you have a constant supply of oil because you don't have to worry about baffling inside the tank, the holding tank, like you do an oil pan. An oil pan, like Philip III said, when you're running a circle track, you're going around left-hand turns all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That oil's going to run up the side of the oil pan. Well, if you got a wet sump, you better be making modifications for that, or you're going to have a lot of bearing issues.
Right.
Where with a dry sump, you don't have to worry about that. The oil's not in the pan.
Ed Page says he's been up to 8,500 RPM and he's making about 2K at the wheels.
Yeah. So he's making roughly 25 to 2,700 at the crank, which is pretty damn impressive for what you got going on.
Yes, indeed.
For you guys that don't know, Ed Page, he's got a twin turbocharged 69 Firebird, and it's basically, you could call it closer to a street car than most of his competitors that are running as fast as he is.
Yep.
But it's because it's got a flat hood on it. Kind of looks like a street car, except for it's got a wing on the back and a parachute.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he's got twin turbos on this thing, and he's running on gasoline and not alcohol. And all his competitors are running on alcohol, which is roughly E85 or ethanol. It's only about maybe a 10% increase in power. But methanol is a huge increase in power, and that's what all his competitors are running that are making 3,000 horsepower. So if Ed were to switch over to methanol, he would be making 3,000 plus with his deal.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. Philip III says he's moving into an old old folks home. Nah, just kidding. Can you imagine him in an old folks home?
No.
And being
I
our
heard there's a lot of STDs there. You don't want to go there anyway.
So you're saying there's a lot of sex there?
I think so.
BNR Racing said, are you selling your blueprint oil pumps to public?
Yeah, we'll sell them.
Now, when you blueprint that though, don't you have to blueprint it to the block?
Well, no. Basically, what we're doing is we're tightening up all the gear clearances on it, because we want. What'll happen if you pull the oil pump right out of the box, the up and down play on the gears is way too big, and that's what causes your oil pressure to only be like 5 or 7 psi at idle when it warms up. And when you tighten all those clearances up, now your oil pressure will usually hang between 15 and 25. The lowest that we've seen is 15. The highest we've seen is like 25.
Because I know that you did the main passageway going up into the block.
Yeah, and that's the other thing you got to check. We put every oil pump on an engine block, and we make sure that the oil passage lines up with the block, because it can be a half a hole off.
Right.
So you have to fix that. And so we do that. You're right. We do that, and then we port them. We clean up in there and around the check fall and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we tighten up the clearances on them, and make sure the spring pressure is what it's supposed to be.
So basically, when you blueprint it, and if you sold one to him, he would still have to go and check the block.
Yeah, he
Okay.
should, definitely. We're going to have it pretty darn close, way better than it would be out of the box, but you still need to check it.
And Ed Page says 2 chutes.
Oh, 2 parachutes. We're going to need that for that 3,600 pound freaking behemoth he's running. If it goes as quick as I think it's going to, or fast as I think it's going to go this year, he's probably going to, it's going to be an oh shit moment if them chutes don't open.
Oh, well, he already had that old shit moment.
Yes, he did. He ended up in the sand of Norwalk.
Yep. And I'm sure he does not want to do that again.
I am absolutely positive of that.
Richard wants to know, can the next podcast be about the Rammer 5 heads? He wants to go in the 7s, and the dragster went 837 with ported Speedmasters.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, we can do that. Actually, I was thinking about doing that. I actually have a customer who's going to be bringing me a set of factory Ram Air 5s. I don't know when he's going to bring them. He called me today and I didn't get to the phone, but if he does bring those over here next week, then yeah, that would be cool. We can compare my head to the factory head.
Yeah.
And then we can show everybody the
I would
improvements.
also like to pull one of those Tiger heads off, and we'll compare it to that as well.
We could do that. We got them spacer plates for the intake manifold. Mm-hmm. We could take one of those and show everybody that 2 Tiger intake ports are the same size as 1 Ram Air 5 intake port. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that because of my head, but that is flipping amazing.
And the Tiger head flows very well. And now...
Well, there's some of the fastest Pontiacs in the world running Tiger heads.
Yeah.
I mean, that head I designed back in, I don't know, it was in the 90s. It was like 95 or 96 I designed that head.
So yeah, we'll compare those heads. And I think we have some sectional cutaways that are 3D printed that we can pull out and show you guys.
Yeah, we can go over all that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and everybody knows that my competitor makes a head too. And that way, if you want to use his cylinder head, that's fine. But you'll know the differences between all the heads. And then that way you can make a more intelligent decision on which one you want to use. So yeah, that's a good idea. I've been thinking about that anyway. I'm trying to work on getting the software updated or figure out what's going on with the chassis dyno too, because we want to do more chassis dynoing. In the wintertime, it's hard for us to do because it's cold. My dyno's outside. We can do it, but it's cold. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on getting that straightened out too, because I want to do a comparison between my new heads that I'm coming out with compared to like pretty much, it's not a max ported, but it's a very well ported head that's on my brother's car, which his heads flow right around 280 CFM. We can see what the difference is between that head and my head on that car. So, but I got to get the dyno working right first.
Philip the Third said, I already forgot, are your Rammer 5 heads aluminum?
Yes, they are. But they're still heavy because we put them on steroids, and a factory head's about this big. The Ram Air 5s are about that big.
Yep.
I'm exaggerating. They're 1.5 inches taller than factory head.
But they're also thicker, so you can take out a little bit more material. And
Well, we
everything.
made the decks really thick on those because I wanted them, be available so that guys want to run a blown or nitrous or anything that's got high cylinder pressure. The deck on that Ram Air 5 head can take it. It's not going to be like the Tiger head. The Tiger heads, I didn't have the deck thick enough on them, and we had a lot of issues with the decks, and you had to keep milling the head to keep the thing true. Where the Ram Air 5, I'm hoping we don't have to do that so much. It is aluminum. It's going to move around. You're going to have to do maintenance anyway, but I'm hoping it'll minimize that.
Richard said, so he helped with the next podcast. He gets a free set of Ram Air 5 heads.
Man, I tell you what, if I gave away all the Ram Air 5 heads that everybody wants, I would be, I'd be living in a cardboard box, or I might be living with Phil down in the old folks' home.
Ed Page says he has a set of McCarty 5 heads for sale with shaft rockers and intake and some other parts.
Yep. So Ed Page has a set of McCarty heads.
And the aluminum Ram Air 5 or Ram Air 4 D-port and round port heads are still hopefully shooting for before Pontiac Nationals.
We're gonna hopefully at least have castings. They might be raw castings. They won't be machined. I'm really trying to get it so that I have a couple of machined heads at the show. I want everybody to see what they look like done. But you guys are gonna love these heads. They're gonna be awesome.
And NHRA Bandit says, you're not exaggerating. I found out upon mock-up, LOL.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Richard said he tried.
But you know what? Something that, and I don't have enough followers yet on this channel, but eventually we get this channel big enough, we can build a Ram Air 5 engine and give it away.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
we can do a couple of giveaways. We can do a top end package.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
can do a motor.
We'll have some kind of
Yeah.
I don't know, charity benefit or something where people donate, and then whoever donates to that, then they put their name in a hat, and we'll give away a set of heads and or a complete engine.
Philip III said he'll build you a shack right next door to his.
Perfect. At least it's warm in Florida, even in the wintertime.
Yeah, right?
I don't even need no heat. All I need is a little bit of running water and a shower.
You definitely want running water with him. He stinks.
Yeah, in the summertime.
The Pontiac Nationals will be the first or the end of July.
Yeah, end of July. Yep.
The last weekend of July.
So we're cutting it close, and not only that,
Yeah.
we got a heavy workload here. We got that TV show coming up with Two Guys Garage, and we got a couple of engines that have to be done. I've got the Ram Air
The
5.
schedule over there, Brandon, for Norwalk behind you.
It's on the wall. But yeah, we've got a ton of work. In springtime, everybody dumps on me too, on top of it all. So
Huh? Well, the end of July is 26th, 27th, 28th. It's the weekend before that. So
I don't
the 18th?
I don't think so. I think it's the last weekend.
I can pull it up.
Yeah, I think it's the 26th, 27th, 28th. Look right there on the walls of the flyer, right behind you on the wall. Right there under the window.
Hanging
You
up?
don't see it? It's right in front of you.
Oh, it is
Huh?
July 19th.
19th through the 21st. Okay.
Ed Page, July 18th and 21st. Yep, you heard.
Hey, it's early this year. It's way early.
this year.
Normally, we're just getting back from the beach at that time. This year, we're not going.
Old School Twist is patiently waiting on the DCI block. That's going to be.
That's a little bit down the road yet. Is Salvador working? Watching tonight? He should be working.
He's been quiet lately.
Yeah, we haven't talked to him. He hasn't been bugging me or nothing.
He hasn't called Brandon either.
Yeah, what's up with that? Where you at, Sammy?
BNR Racing said you have to run race sick week, Don and Brandon. Show off to Steve Morris, etc. Show them Pontiac V8 power is alive at DCI.
I want to so bad. I was really going to try to get that done this year, but you know
We
what?
need to go to the one down in Florida. Maybe we can bunk with Phil the third.
Yeah, depending on where the race is at.
Yeah.
You know what? The only problem is if me and Phil get together, I'm pretty sure we're going to drink too much, and I'm not going to be worth a shit. So, but anyway, maybe if I got some local guys that want to come volunteer and help work on the race car, maybe we can get that done. Not this year, maybe for next year.
Definitely for next year. I know they're doing another one in Indianapolis or something like that, I think.
Yep.
But I think the main one is in Florida, and I think they're doing 2 of them. I think the other one's at the end of the season. But I would like to do the opening one because that seems to be the biggest turnout.
Well, you're going to have to get your butt here too.
I know. Phil third says 2 shacks. Yes.
2 shacks.
And I'm bougie. I need a toilet in mine at least.
Don't let him kid you. He'll poop in a bucket.
But yep, I think we're gonna wrap it up. It's 8:16, and
Well, hey, you know what? Welcome all our new members tonight. Thank you
Yes.
for showing up, and hope to see you guys next week too. Next week, you know what? Rick's got a good idea there. We can go over to
Rich.
Raymare 5. Well, yeah, it goes by Rick or Rich, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's do the Raymare 5 head breakdown next week, and I'll show you guys some of the features on that head. Ed Page can pipe in. He's running the heads on his car.
yep.
You know, you guys seen the blown Raymare 5 that got dynoed at Steve Morris's a couple weeks ago. So, you know, and I'll show you some of the reasons why I think it's a good blower head. But yeah, let's do that.
right.
Go over that.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend coming up, and we'll talk to you all next week.
All right, good night, y'all.